Hello everybody, it's Bourbon Bill, and tonight, a very special episode. We're diving into a bourbon and distillery never before featured on this channel. And you better sit down and buckle up, because the jury's back and the verdict's in. It's High and Wicked the Jury. So big shout out to Dave Vogel saying thank you, sir, as always, for the great support on this channel and the great samples. This man gets everything, and I mean everything. The good, the bad, maybe the ugly. We don't know. So, if you're not familiar, High and Wicked is kind of a newer brand, probably the last couple years or so. They do some like regular stuff, like 6-year-old type stuff, floating around, and then they do, I don't know what they're calling these, the Justice series perhaps? I don't think so, but they had the judge, now they have the jury. Are they going to have like the executioner, the innocent, the guilty? I don't know, they could take this pretty far. But the newest one is the jury. Okay, it is aged 15 years, bourbon whiskey. I don't have the bottle, but I'll put a picture up. It's a beautiful looking bottle, and my God, look at the color on that SOB. Look at that. MSRP on this is around 130 doll hairs, give or take 10 or 20. Okay, it's around there. I'm not quite sure. It's in that ballpark, that 130 doll hair range, if you will, up or minus. Okay. This is cask strength at 104 proof. Compute 52%. Alcohol by volume. And you might say, cask strength at 104 proof, Bourbon Bill, is that MGP? Because there is some MGPs, like the Remus Gatsby, that are cask strength. That's pretty low numbers. No. Now, unfortunately, this is distilled in Tennessee, which would mean, dun dun dun, it's George Dickle. So this is George Dickle. Now, what makes this special George Dickle is that it's actually 14-year-old George Dickle, aged for a year in Extinta Negra Madeira casks. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but it's Madeira finished. What's Madeira? Portuguese wine, to be fact, courtesy of Google. Thank you, Google. So hey, sounds pretty dang good, okay? So it's George Dickle, finished for a year, right? It's 14-year-old George Dickle, finished for another year. It's a good long finishing time. It's a good looking color. How the hell is it? Let's see if it's worth the money. Now, before we dive into it, we are going to compare it to George Dickle 15-year cask strength, the bottle that I have. This one comes in at 100.8, compute 50.4% cask strength. So it's pretty close in proof. We're less than 4 off, 3.2 proof to be exact. This is 15-year-old with no finishing. Now these bottles here you can get for like 70, 80 doll hairs today. Maybe around you a little bit less, but 70, 80 doll hairs for a 15-year-old bourbon, pretty dang good in my book. I do enjoy these. I'm not a Dickle hater. I liked my Flintstone vitamins as a kid. So, what do we get on the nose? Quite excited for this. Thanks, Steve. Son of a bitch, that smells delicious. Oh my God, so much jammy red fruits. It is just dark and delicious. I'm getting so much like cherry and other strawberries, cherries, plums. There's like a faint tobacco leather thing going on here. But the predominant is just this heavy fruit. Gosh dang, that smells delicious. This might make me open the wallet. All right, let's take a sip. Oh. Man, is that good. Man, is that good. It's very like big plummy on the palate. Okay, so the nose I get is more cherry, but the palate comes across more as like a fig plum, a little bit darker, not a cherry. I don't get a cherry on the palate. There's a chocolate caramel thing going on towards the end, full of fruits. There's a little bit of oak in there, but it's not what you'd expect for 15 years. The fruit here kind of overpowers the bourbon. And I mean, I like it. But it kind of overpowers. It's just not as cohesive as I would have liked. Quite good. Bourbon Bill's rating on this bad boy, taking into account the price, I'm going to give it an A. I think it's priced a little high. You know, if this was $100 hairs, maybe 110, I'd feel better. But 130 plus is just getting a little expensive for this. It is fairly thick in the mouthfeel. It's full of fruits. If you like a finished bourbon, this is pretty good. I'm getting 0 George Dickel orange vitamin mineral note on here. It does not occur because of the finishing just covers that right up. I'm not getting that. I mean, thinking about George Dickel, I guess it kind of, you know, it has the hallmarks there, but it doesn't, that's not the forward note. Okay, so let's compare that to the 15-year George Dickel right here for $80 hairs, right, on the high end. So we're talking a good $50 hairs less for this. So you're paying $50 hairs for the finishing on the other one. Is that a good value? I don't know. Let's give this one a nosing. Oh, man. You know, this is such a good nose. A lot of oak here. Okay, oak is a predominant note on this one, as well as that orange zest, you know, orange mineral note, orange Flintstone vitamin note for some of you. That's what's here, and this is a fantastic nose. Which nose do I like better? This is actually really tough. I would have, going into this before I tasted it, I would have 100% guessed I would have liked the High and Wicked better. It's got the cherry, it's got the fruit thing going on. But it dials back the oak here. All right, let's take a sip. Oh, that's so good. It's so good. So mouthfeel on both of them is pretty good. You know, they're not thin. Good long finishes on both. This one tastes what you smell. It's all delicious, well-aged oak on here. That orange zest, you know, vitamin note, whatever you want to call it. It's all there. This is delicious, if not simplistic, right? It's those two notes predominantly. There's caramel, but it's predominantly those two notes. This one's got more going on, but I don't know if it's that much better. They couldn't diverge more. I mean, they just... If you're a George Dickel hater, fear not. You probably won't guess that's what you're getting here on the jury. That's quite good. It's an A rating. It's still very good. I think the price is a tad high. I wish it had the oak component though. As much as I'm a fan of heavy long finishes, I really am. That's one of the first ones I can say where kind of overpowered the bourbon, and that's what I mean. Look, a lot of oak and orange zest here, not getting any of that here. Okay, and they're George Dickel, so the heavy finishing has covered up all of that. Now, if you're not a fan of the George Dickel profile, High and Wicked's for you. If you are, I say don't necessarily spend the extra $50 here. Just get a nice, you know, pick or single barrel 15-year Dickle there for $50 hairs less, and you're not going to be terribly far off. Now you're not getting that delicious fruit palette going on, but still, as far as how good the sip is, close enough for government work, as we say on this channel. Now, I wouldn't leave you there. There's always something a little extra special. What other finished bourbon have I had this year that's been really good that I can compare that High and Wicked to? Here it is, the Chattanooga White Port Finish. This SOB, if you didn't recall, go watch my video, but an over 2-year finish. Enduro Valley Port, White Port barrels to be exact. Age on this bad boy though, greater than 5. So there you go. We're going to put that into a clear here as well so we can compare the color, okay? Now this sucker is only 95 proof. A lot less in terms of age. I mean, we're talking like 10 years less, perhaps, in terms of age. Price on this bad boy about $60 in that range. So a lot less. I mean, half basically of the Jury High and Wicked. Alright, so the Jury here on the right here that I'm swirling is slightly darker, but it's minute. And you're talking cask strength versus 95 proof. Now, I know 104 versus 95 isn't, you know, isn't that far off, but cask strength we know on the Chattanoogas is almost about 120. So they did water this down quite a bit. So to be that watered down and nearly as dark, that says something. That says something. All right, here's the Chattanooga. Now, we've been drinking all these aged products. How does this compare being a lot less aged? Son of, oh my God, what a nose. Just so much port, peaches, cherry. Man, you know, that's not worse. I mean, this is a brighter nose. I'll say the High and Wicked does smell a little bit more deep, dark, and delicious and well aged, but they're not far off, folks. That's crazy. All right, down the hatch with the Chattanooga White Port. What you smell is exactly what you get. Cherries, peaches, port flavor, caramel. All right, how does that compare back to our High and Wicked here? Okay. Back to back on those two, I think the High and Wicked is better. I think it carries a little bit deeper, darker, richer flavor. Longer finish. Feels a little thicker too. But it's not that far off. It should be better for more than double the price. So there's that. I think if you don't want to spend the money on the High and Wicked, knowing it's finished in Madeira, I know it's not the same finishing, I'd still buy this Chattanooga White Port instead. I mean, a lot cheaper, half price. And you're like 85, 90% of the way there of the High and Wicked. It won, but it wasn't a blowout in terms of flavor for me. So there you have it. If you're worried about the Dickle mineral note, they don't really have it. So there you go. If you're into finished bourbons, it's quite good, albeit a little bit pricey. If you're on a budget, get the Chattanooga White Port. Not quite the same, but get you there. It'll do what you want it to do for finished bourbons. I'm going to be on the lookout for one of these. If I happen to be in the store and I see one on the shelf for MSRP, I'd probably buy it. So good pickup, Dave, on this. This is interesting. And one of the only products, one of the few, we'll say, that contains Georgia Dickle that you don't really know, right, from tasting it because of the aging on it. So I will say that. So if you like what we saw tonight, please like, comment, and hit that subscribe button. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.